Hello, welcome to The Real Bit Wars. I'm Chris, and you may have saw recently I gave a little tour of my NES and Super Nintendo collections. So today I thought it might be fun to take a look at my Genesis and Master System games. If you're not familiar on this channel, there are two of us. Mike, who is the Sega guy, and myself, who is a Nintendo person. Oftentimes when we do go game hunting, Mike and I do go together, and we have had an agreement for many years that he gets first crack at Sega stuff and I get dibs on Nintendo stuff. It's just a way to avoid any kind of bickering or anything like that. So as a result, you may have noticed that he has a very large Genesis collection. He's near complete. He's only got like less than 40 games to go. So my Sega collections aren't nearly as substantial as his. However, I feel like I got some stuff that you might be interested in taking a look at, so let's get a closer look at these games. So I decided to start here on the bottom because there's quite a few sports games, and I know that probably won't be of much interest to the majority of you. But over here we do have the Madden games. The first one here is a little bit uncommon, that is complete. Also, Madden 98 is not one you see every day. I've always kind of been intrigued by the Joe Montana series because they could not make up their mind on a name. We have Joe Montana Football, Joe Montana 2 Sports Talk Football, Sports Talk Football 93 starring Joe Montana, NFL Football 94 starring Joe Montana, NFL 95, NFL Primetime, and then there was NFL 97 on the Saturn, and then they came back to the Genesis with NFL 98. Kind of funny. Here's Mutant League Football. I actually kind of enjoy Zero Tolerance. I think for that time that's actually a pretty decent first-person shooter. Got a lot of Terminator stuff in here. There's Prince of Persia. The second ToeJam and Earl game is there. Some Shinobi games, including Revenge of Shinobi, which might be my favorite Genesis game. Quite possibly. Light Crusader and Dynamite Headdy there. Those are a couple of treasure games. We have Dragon's Revenge and Dragon's Fury. And before we move along, I do have a small handful of loose cartridges that I would like to show you. We have Gunstar Heroes, Turrican, and Mega Turrican. Here's the Game Genie. We have Smash TV, Batman, Revenge of the Joker, and Kid Chameleon. On to the next row. Down on the end here we do have a lot of Disney stuff. I would consider Toy Story to be a pretty underrated one. I prefer that version, definitely. The Illusion games are definitely popular ones. The infamous Pit Fighter, see, it was so good I had to also get the Genesis version. This one is sealed. Funny World and Balloon Boy. I actually bought two of these Realtek games, both sealed, and it turned out Mike was missing one of them in his collection, so I went ahead and gave it to him for like his birthday or a Christmas present or something like that. So yeah, I've never played that, but I doubt that I'm missing out on much. And then there are a handful throughout that I have loose cartridges in custom cases. This is one. So Mike makes these for me. I do have Splatterhouse 3. This is the real deal cartridge in there. I bought that loose. And I believe this is like a European cover that he put on there and made this. So it looks nice and presentable that way. King of the Monsters 1 and 2. I like those. Here are repros, or maybe you would want to call them bootlegs because some of these were released, like Alien Soldier, Mega Man Wily Wars. Again, these are some loose cartridges in custom cases. This is the James Bond game, which I actually think is kind of underrated. I enjoy that one. Truxton here, the one sitting up on top is Jewel Master. American Gladiators, that's a fantastic game. Dinosaurs for Hire is a very good co-op game. Of course, the infamous Awesome Possum kicks Dr. Machino's butt. Okay, on to the second shelf. This one actually hides things. Some of the games on the very end, you can't quite see what they are, so I'll pull those out and show them to you. Virtua Racing, here we have Subterranea, probably my favorite shooter on the Genesis. Here are some RBI baseball games. I always found this sort of amusing how they just went ahead and used the same picture for 3 and 4. I like the Cool Spot game. We have some Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Steel Empire. That's a pretty good one. There's the Ghostbusters. The one hiding on the end down there is just Judge Dredd, so don't worry about that. The one hiding over here is Bram Stoker's Dracula. And here, these are some more custom cases that Mike made, but I do have the cartridge and the manual for that. And Rampage Edition also has the cartridge and manual, and then the first Jurassic Park is actually a real case. Gargoyles, the Power Ranger games, those are fun. Here's my little Christmas trilogy, Home Alone 1 and 2, and then A Days Before Christmas repro. And I like collecting those Sega Club games. It is the cartridge, the manual, and the Sega mouse. And Sonic Classics, this is another printed out insert, it's not the real thing. I actually really like Sonic Spinball and Mean Bean Machine. I think those are kind of underrated games. We do have some of the Accolade games. The one hiding on the end is Summer Challenge. Then you'll notice this row here has a lot of Electronic Arts games. That's a third-party developer that I really like collecting for. The Virtual Pinball is hiding on the end here. There's Crew Ball, the Desert Strike series, kind of the definitive versions of those games. We have the Road Rash trilogy as well as Skitchin, which is just a rollerblading version of Road Rash. General Chaos, The Immortal, Shadow of the Beast, all sorts of stuff in there. We have Shove It here, I like that game. Raiden Trad, and the one hiding on the end here is the 6-game cartridge. I do not have the Menacer, but I do have that game. And up here, this is Justice League Task Force hiding on the end. And then I have other superhero related stuff like Batman. There's a bunch of Spider-Man stuff. Again, I kind of have a soft spot for both this and the Super Nintendo port, man. I don't know what it is. Arcade's Revenge. I enjoy playing that. X-Men 2 is really good. Mega Bomberman, I really like that game. As you know, you probably guessed that already. I talk about that series in every video. The Streets of Rage trilogy, Ghouls and Ghosts there. And then I do have my Konami games. Frogger is actually one of them, even though it says Majesco on it. But I would say Castlevania Bloodlines is among my favorite Genesis games. Likewise with Rocket Knight Adventure. This here is a Probotector, basically a bootleg or a repro if you want to call it that. It does have a manual and everything in it. Sunset Riders is another loose cart. Again, Mike printed this out for me. Lethal Enforcers 2 is a really good one. I also really like Hyperstone Heist. And then the Konami game hiding on the end there is the Double Dribble Tournament Edition. Here are the last of the Genesis games. This is a really good game. True hidden gem right here. Super Baseball 2020. You do not have to be into sports games to enjoy that. Hang Time is a good one. NHL 98 is not one you see every day. Here we have Hook and the Lost Vikings. Hard Drive, and again, I mentioned this recently, but I do have a soft spot for that entire series. You might be able to see on the end, Page Masters hiding back there. We have Vector Man 1 and 2. Comic Zone is a really cool game. We have the Battletoads and Double Dragon, as well as some Double Dragon games in there. This is a bootleg of the second one. And this here, Wrestle War, you might be able to see on the cover. That is Titan Mogan. Yeah, they meant to call it Titan Morgan. They spelled it wrong, and it's a very obvious knockoff of Hulk Hogan, and you might be able to see some of the characters in the background. Road Warrior Hawk, Abdullah the Butcher, One Man Gang, I believe that's Bruiser Brody over there. Yeah, they did not have the license to use any of these. This is Wonder Boy 3 Monster Lair. I do have a repro of Monster World, translated to English. I gotta say, this is one I picked up very early in my collecting days because people were always talking about it, and I do not like this game at all. We have some Simpson games, Bubsy 1 and 2, Ren and Stimpy. This is kind of an odd one. Again, this is like a bad game that I enjoy playing. I do have 3 of the 4 Micro Machines games. These are always really interesting because they have those like multi-taps on them. In the cartridge there, you can plug extra controllers in and do 4-player. Very innovative idea. I'm surprised we didn't see more of that. And this is another one, Cosmic Spacehead. Has like the custom Codemasters case. Biohazard Battle, which is a pretty lousy game. And then hiding on the end, everyone's favorite Genesis game, Fighting Masters. All right, next up, what do you say we take a look at my Master System games? Alex Kidd Miracle World. Here is Alf. One of the more rare Master System games to my knowledge. I do have Back to the Future 2 and 3. This is a port of the one that was on the Genesis. And again, these are just bad games that I enjoy playing. They're just kind of amusing. You sort of have to see them to believe them. And I would say undoubtedly my favorite Master System game, Batman Returns. Here's one you don't see every day, Desert Strike. More known for the 16-bit ports, with Double Dragon on the end. Lucky Dime Caper, Clax, there's Jurassic Park, The Jungle Book, another Joe Montana football game. This here is also a pretty rare one, and Hook was never released. This is a reproduction. There's Global Gladiators. Here's another one of my more rare Master System games, Ghouls and Ghosts. Here's another repro that I had that I bought just simply because I'm looking for every port of these, and I believe this was originally a Brazil Tech Toy exclusive. And I do have some of the card games scattered throughout. I mean, this one has one of the best covers ever. It's a picture of somebody holding it, kind of like that. Here we have the last of my Master System games, and the very end here is Moonwalker. I do not have the Genesis version, but here is the Master System one in all its glory. Look at that. I love how that sticker is still on there. Sega Hotline. There's Mortal Kombat, that's a recent pickup. Micro Machines is another pretty obscure one. We saw this on many other consoles, but the Master System version is not easy to come by. R-Type is a really good game. Here's another card. Spy vs. Spy. Pro Wrestling. I think this is like the best cover of any game ever. Look at that. Guy's giving himself a headlock. This is another pretty obscure one. WrestleMania Steel Cage Challenge. Wonder Boy games again. There's another card. Another person holding it. Tom and Jerry, Time Soldiers, The Terminator, the Strider. Star Wars is also one I don't see very often. There's a Super Tennis card game in there as well. And what better place to end? However, as long as we're doing this, this same shelf does house my PS2 games. And even though I personally don't find that nearly as interesting, what do you say we go ahead and take a look at them before we end the video? So on the end here are my imports, if I can get any of them out of there. Alright, and again, the same old series you've seen 1,000 times on this channel. That is one of the Goemon games there. These are all PAL region games. We have the Home Alone one. I actually beat that once. Jumanji. This one was released here, but we have Futurama. It's a pretty expensive game normally. And then this one I just found at one of my local pawn stores. There's some of the Metal Slug, the Anthology, there's 4 and 5, The Thing is a pretty cool one. I actually don't mind these Maximo games. Oh, and I have Fatal Frame 2 and Silent Hill 3. I could have swore I sold those already. So those probably won't be here much longer. Alien Hominid, that's decent. Monster House is actually a pretty cool game, as well as the Game Boy Advance port of that as well. We do have some of the treasure games in here. Gradius 5 is fantastic. This is not only my favorite PS2 game, but one of my favorite games of all time, probably top 10. Shadow of the Colossus. One of the Bust-A-Move games, I love those. Oh, Final Fight Streetwise, that's another one that I might potentially get rid of soon, because these are going up in price and I could definitely use these as trade bait to further my NES and Super Nintendo collections. Here we have the Operation Genesis. Yeah, for some reason I started collecting all of those THQ wrestling games. It's a Metal Gear Solid in there. Several Star Wars games here as well. Bully is a cool one. Well, that does it for today, but I would like to thank every one of you for watching The Real Bit Wars. I love these Destroy All Humans games. Whoop.